And for the 50th time, you can't go south of south, you silly little man. Once you're at the South Pole, any direction you move will be northward. Another flat earth knobhead. I know, I couldn't believe it either. Oh, well done, Eric, you just nailed it.
Whether you believe the Earth to be flat, globular, hollow, concave, or otherwise, the freedom to independently travel and explore the Earth, from the North Pole to whatever exists south of the South Pole.
So, the concept of south of the South Pole doesn't have a literal geographic meaning, because the South Pole is the southernmost point on Earth's surface. Once you're at the South Pole, any direction you move will be northward. However, if we were to entertain the idea in a cosmic sense, or in terms of what's below the Earth's crust, then south of the South Pole would refer to the continuation of the Earth's mass beneath the South Pole.
Military vessels near the North Pole and Antarctica have repeatedly barred independent teams of explorers from traveling into these heavily patrolled and restricted waters.
Right, hang on a second. Now, usually when I'm making a video like this, I try my best to look up information that is as accurate as I can possibly make it. But on this occasion, I've just got one simple question. Why is it that when you search for news articles of pictures of the military doing what flat earthers think they do, you do not get even a single search result? I mean, if I didn't know better, I would think that it's just something flat earthers make up, because in reality they know that anyone can visit the Antarctic. I could go to my local travel agents right now and book a cruise to Antarctica. I'm not going to, because it looks bloody freezing, and we get enough big nipple small willy weather in the UK as it is. But yeah, I've always been curious about that one. Where's the evidence of your claim, Eric Douchebay?
The Antarctic Treaty prevents all independent travel south of the 60th degree south latitude.
No. The Antarctic Treaty does not forbid travel beyond the 60th south parallel. What the treaty primarily does is regulate interactions and activities in the Antarctic region to ensure that they are peaceful and environmentally responsible. And many researchers, scientists, and tourists do travel beyond the 60th south parallel each year. However, those activities are subject to specific regulations, especially to minimize environmental impact. For instance, tourism is managed so that it doesn't harm the ecosystem or interfere with scientific research. So in essence, travel is permitted, but it is kind of managed to align with the goals of the Antarctic Treaty.
Where rebels like Jarl Andahoy and his team have been repeatedly turned around at gunpoint, jailed, and fined for daring to attempt.
Yes, he has been arrested for sailing into certain areas of the Antarctic, but it wasn't because the Earth is flat and that they're hiding all the secrets down there. He got arrested because he failed to get the necessary permits. I don't even really understand why you would bring that up. Or were you hoping that nobody who watches your videos has access to the internet? And it was him and his 4 crew members that were arrested in waters near the border of Chile and Argentina anyway. But like anything else, if you do something or go somewhere that requires authorization, without that authorization, then there will be legal consequences. But again, that doesn't mean the Earth is flat either.
What is so important in Antarctica that 53 of the most powerful countries in the world have agreed to patrol and enforce harsh restrictions and penalties on anyone who attempts to independently explore it?
Antarctica holds significant importance for various reasons, and the restrictions placed on its exploration are primarily to protect its unique environment and maintain it for peaceful purposes. I've already answered this question in this video, and many others. Eric, if you want to try removing your head from your ass, then you too would be able to see Antarctica for what it is. And I hate to break it to you, but it's just another continent. The most unspoilt continent on Earth. So, yeah, nice try, douche nozzle, but no cigar for you.
Why has the entire continent of Antarctica and everywhere else on Earth below the 60th south parallel been caged off from us?
Oh, you stupid stunt. There is nothing below the 60th south parallel except for Antarctica. And as I've explained more than once, why it isn't a place that can be visited easily. But that doesn't mean you can't. It's cold. It's inhospitable. They don't even have a Starbucks. It's probably the last unspoilt place on the planet, which is why 53 countries signed the Antarctic Treaty to make sure it stays that way for as long as possible.
The only way we can experience Antarctica is by being a government employee and working at one of their bases.
Is it? Well, I am sure Viking cruises, Audley Travel, Swoop Antarctica, Igloo cruises, and ROL cruises will strongly disagree with you, as would the 105,000 people who have visited the continent between 2022 and 2023. You silly sausage! According to the IAATO, which stands for the International Association of Antarctica Tour Operators, which I'm sure must be an organisation set up to help everyone who can't go to Antarctica, say that a record 105,331 people visited the continent over the 2022-2023 season. So what was that you were saying again about only scientists and military personnel being allowed to visit Antarctica?
Or doing one of their overpriced penguin tours along the Antarctic coast.
Well, that caught me off guard. So now you do believe that people can cruise to Antarctica? I'm so confused. And of course you're going to say that the tours are overpriced. It's about $5,000 on average. And if you compare that to what it costs to go on a cruise around the Caribbean, it's about the same. You know, give or take a few dollars. Is this you backtracking because you suddenly remembered that other people can fact check you? Which wouldn't take too long anyway, because your videos have no facts in them to check.
No one, even these very few humans, is granted the freedom to explore the continent.
And you don't think that might be because it's pretty much all just ice and snow? It's a very dangerous place, with the average temperature at the interior of Antarctica being around minus 71 degrees Fahrenheit or minus 57 degrees Celsius. People would freeze to death really quickly. And to simplify it even further, I would imagine it's for similar reasons that they don't open tourist resorts smack in the middle of Indian tiger reserves or North Centennial Island, for example. Both those places are protected by the Indian government. And guess what? Neither of those places prove the Earth is flat either. But you might get eaten by a tiger, which is far from ideal. In the same way as freezing to death isn't high on most people's vacation bucket list. Or on mine.
So even they are clueless as to what may exist at the furthest southern extents of the Earth.
But we know exactly what exists at the furthest southern extents of the Earth. And clearly, so do you, because you keep mentioning it. The South Pole, which is in Antarctica, you knobsocket.
The world's governments, militaries, media, schools, and literally everyone else except flat earthers claim with conviction and wholeheartedly believe that the South Pole is the southernmost extent of their globe.
Oh, well done, Eric, you just nailed it. Why is it that everyone on Earth, with the exception of flat earthers, can accept what we've known to be a fact for thousands of years? And look, the only people making claims here are flat Earth morons, us globies, or as I like to call us people who weren't dropped on their heads when they were kids, are able to accept reality. And realistically, that's the only difference between us and you lot.
And by definition, this must be the case, because to continue traveling southwards beyond this southernmost point is tantamount to traveling northwards.
And that's what I was trying to explain to you earlier. Once you get to the southernmost point on Earth, if you take a step in any direction, you're going north. See? Now this is where my idea that there aren't actually any real flat earthers comes into play. Eric clearly knows what reality shows us because he frequently mentions it. But he still insists on putting out these really stupid hit pieces. He never comes up with a new idea that might prove his beloved flat Earth, nor does he offer any alternative explanations. He's no different to any other flat Earth clown on YouTube. He just happens to be a little bit more charismatic and has a bigger following. But none of those things will ever be able to do what he is so desperate to do, prove that the Earth is flat.
If the Earth is not a globe, however, and is actually an extended level plane, as claimed by flat earthers, continuing to travel south of the South Pole would not and could not bring the traveler back north.
Which is another one of the many things that should be a pretty solid indicator, even to you, that the Earth isn't flat. North, south, east, and west, collectively known as cardinal directions, and they are fundamental navigation and orientational tools that have been used by human beings for millennia. Their origins are rooted in our planet's natural properties. North and south, those are the directions which are determined by the Earth's axis of rotation. East and west, as the Earth rotates on its axis, it does so from east to west. I never know which way to point when it doesn't matter, just ignore that I pointed. And this means that the sun appears to rise in the east and set in the west, giving us our definitions for these directions. These cardinal directions provide a consistent frame of reference, allowing people to navigate, create maps, and describe locations relative to one another. Funny, innit? It works exactly as we'd expect it to on a globe Earth. Nuts.
On a flat Earth, the traveler would instead continue southwards into unknown southern territories that don't exist on a globe.
I know, it's crazy that on Earth there are no imaginary places beyond the southernmost point. Absolute insanity. I do have another question though. Based on your flat Earth map, which way is south?
If NASA, the world's governments, militaries, media, academia, and/or anyone else involved in maintaining the legitimacy of the globe concept truly wanted to shut up flat earthers once and for all, this is how easy it would be.
Concept? What the hell do you mean concept? And listen, douche nozzle, don't make promises you can't keep. And I have no idea what NASA has to do with the South Pole, but go on then. Let's hear how we can finally shut flat earthers up. Because let's be honest, for just a second, all flat earthers actually are is a group of people that think they are so special, they know something that the rest of the world doesn't. Because without it, they're all just a bunch of weirdos that everyone laughs at. Especially me, and hopefully you.
Allow for independent travel south of the South Pole. Or live stream a full south to north circumnavigation of the supposed globe, starting in Antarctica and traveling south.
Well, independent travel is already a thing, and for the 50th time, you can't go south of south, you silly little man. And the Transglobe expedition was the first expedition to make a longitudinal north to south circumnavigation of Earth using only surface transport. British adventurer Sir Ranulph Fiennes led a team that attempted to follow the Greenwich Meridian over land and water. They began in Greenwich, which is in London in the United Kingdom, in September 1979 and travelled south, arriving at the South Pole on the 15th of December 1980. And over the next 14 months, they travelled north, reaching the North Pole on April the 11th, 1982, where they began travelling south once more. They arrived again in Greenwich on the 29th of August 1982. So, to prove to you that the Earth is a globe, you want people to do things which have already been done. Well, that makes a lot of sense, doesn't it?
Show the world's flat earthers that traveling south of the South Pole will somehow bring you north.
Now, I don't want to say it again, but I will, just for you, Eric. It does!
At the very least, show us what happens when a plane travels perfectly straight in any direction, starting from anywhere on Earth, for 48 hours.
Oh yeah, that's no problem at all, but first of all, I will have to save up to buy an aeroplane. Oh, and get my pilot's license as well as getting over my fear of flying. But yeah, that's a really sensible way of proving something that we already know for a fact, isn't it? Now, surely I am not the only one who's wondering why it is flat earthers always ask for something which is virtually impossible to prove to them that the Earth is a globe and nothing else will do. Like, for example, when Mark Sargent was asking for pictures of curves from the cockpits of aeroplanes, and I very kindly obliged and emailed them to him, and he literally replied, nah, and shared a link with me to a Neil deGrasse Tyson video. Another flat Earth knobhead. I know. I couldn't believe it either.
If Earth is truly a ball 24,900 miles in circumference, as we are taught, traveling perfectly straight in any direction, starting from anywhere on Earth, at an average flight speed of 550 miles per hour, the globe model claims the plane will circumnavigate the entire circumference and return to its original starting point.
And that's because it would. Oh, and look at his little pictures there. Down doesn't mean what you were trying to show it means with those silly upside down pictures, you clown. Down is simply gravity pulling an object towards the center of mass. So wherever a plane is at any point on the globe, Down is always in the same direction, even though it isn't really a direction. You know what I mean?
On a flat Earth, however, a plane traveling in a perfectly straight line, never deviating left or right, regardless of where it starts or which direction it travels, will eventually reach the Antarctic.
Oh yes, I'm sure it would, if the flat Earth was real. But it isn't, so it won't.
Why has such a simple experiment never been performed in aviation history?
But it has, like I said earlier on. But it wasn't to prove or disprove the shape of the Earth. And Mr. Douche Canoe, ignorance of something happening is not evidence that the Earth is flat. So unless if all you have is requests for people to do things which have already been done, then I think you're doing a great job of demonstrating to us all why 99% of the people you ask think flat earthers are stupid. We can do a survey if you like.
Are we globe earthers and flat earthers alike?
No, not even a little bit.
Content and complacent enough with what we are told to simply trust it as truth?
Now, whilst that may be what you do, Eric Douchebay, it is most certainly not what I do. If I'm researching anything, hang on, the answer's going to be overkill, isn't it? And a little too much for the pea-sized intellect of a flat earther. We don't just blindly believe anything. In fact, belief doesn't even come into it. The reason people like me aren't flat earthers is because we are able to accept what every single observation and experiment shows us to be the case. And that case is that the Earth is an oblate spheroid, and nothing you or any other flat earther will ever say is going to change that.
Unlike the cardinal directions on a compass rose, north, south, east, and west on Earth are not simply straight lines separated by 90 degrees. North, rather than being an upward shooting arrow, is actually a point.
Now, talking about points, do you have one, and when are you going to make it? And that's a funny picture you have on your screen there. So I guess my question's been answered. Flat earthers think south is in every direction. Cool story, bro. Anyway, now that we have that out of the way, I've got something quite serious to talk about, so bear with me for a few minutes. So one of my subscribers, a guy called Alan Akers, shared something with me a few days ago that left me completely speechless. His daughter's boyfriend, a 16-year-old lad called Corey Nedro, was shot and killed by another youth because Corey beat him in a video game. Just let that sink in for a few seconds. And I was so saddened by what was being shared with me, I couldn't not give this young boy, who should have had the rest of his life ahead of him, a mention. Killed because he won a video game. What the actual fuck? And you know I don't swear in my videos. So, hear what I'm saying. If I see even one comment shitting on this kid's memory, I will block you from the channel without even a second of thought. And I don't care who you are. If Alan wants to comment, I'll pin that comment so that any of you who would like to can leave him your best wishes, you know, for him and his family. It's just so sad and so unnecessary. Take care of yourselves, everyone. Love you, bye.
All right, watch this next. But before you do, make sure you subscribe. By order of the Creaky Blinder.